It's now time for Connecting Caregivers with author, speaker, caregiver advocate, and talk show host, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
Birds around the world today. It's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. On the show where you can find help and hope. Now, I'll get you to do it in a minute, Maureen. And on the board this morning, we have Ed. How you doing, Ed?
Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Time does fly.
Did you do the Facebook?
Nope.
That's what I was doing for you. I know with Maureen, we'll take care of that.
I almost tried. I forgot to put the Facebook up. So with me, as always, is my best friend, my co-host, and my sidekick, not sidekick, Lynn Thornley.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Good.
A beautiful day today, isn't it?
There's no humidity.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. Makes a total big difference.
And it's going to last till tomorrow afternoon.
That's what they're saying.
And then they said, wait till November.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
It's been humid.
Yeah, it has been.
Because I go out walking at like 6 because I can't walk any other time.
Yeah.
Well, you do. You have a dog. You have to.
I know I have to certain times, but most of our walking we're doing in the morning and at night now because it's a little too warm.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to do is give a shout out to our newest listeners. We have Jenny in St. Pete, we have Marcia in Largo, and we have Daphne in Dunedin.
Welcome, ladies.
And like I always say, there's plenty of room around the Connecting Caregivers table for more listeners, whether you listen when we're live or on Facebook or YouTube or my website or wherever. We're just here to help you in any way we can. I'm very excited to say next week the winner of the caregiver contest will be here.
She's going to get lots of goodies.
Lots of good. Cookie Lopez.
Oh.
So we have a caregiver contest that runs 365 days a year on my website, lindaburhans.com. You just go there, you nominate a caregiver. Every single person that is nominated receives a gift from me. And then once a quarter, we pick out one main winner, and we just do it randomly because you're all winners to us. And you get a basket with a whole bunch of fabulous stuff in it. So we'll see Cookie next week. So with me on the show today, I have Rev Linda McLeod. How are you today?
I'm wonderful.
I'm so glad that you're here. We hadn't seen each other in a long time.
Yeah.
And then she contacted me about being on the show. And then what happens? The other day, I'm somewhere socially, and I walk in the kitchen, and there she is.
Yep.
So you never know.
Wow.
Yes. I looked, and she looked at me, and I'm going like, yeah.
Hello.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah.
So, Linda, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself first.
Wow. A little bit about me. My name is Linda McLeod, and I live in St. Pete, and I became a minister late in life. I've always been a person working with ministry. Never thought I would be a minister, but people tell me I've always been a minister. I've always been there to support people and help people to go through whatever they're going through. Mm-hmm. And there was a time when I got very fearful of that because it seemed like it was an expectation versus. So I'm learning again to be present for people, to start to allow people to be open and free around me. And I'm one of those people that people will walk up to and share their whole life story. And so people need a place where they can share who they are without that fear of being judged or critiqued.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people, and I own it. I'm starting to own some of my...
As you should.
Like somebody came up to me the other day, Linda, I need to tell you something. You're not going to tell nobody else. I said, no, I won't tell anybody else. But it's just being available so people can have a place that they can share without fear of what they're going to say is going to be put out into the universe. And also,
well, I'm sure when you go back probably your whole life, people have been telling you stuff.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't realize the value that you have or how important that is to someone else.
My most favorite story about being available, I was with a friend. We were at Barnes and Noble. And she was looking for a book, and I had already picked out my book. And I was standing at the counter, and I was just standing there, minding my own business. And this lady comes up, and she's standing next to me. And she says, I needed to be in your energy.
Doesn't that make you feel good?
I was like, what? What? And I said, well, how are you doing? And my husband reminded me one day, he said, you ask people how they're doing. I said, No, I don't. He said, yes, you do. And then I realized I do. I'm like, hello, how are you doing? Grew up in the country, you always ask people how they're doing. And so it's nice to be able to have a space where you can walk up to someone and not be afraid to share who you are. And I didn't know that I was that open person, but I am. And I'm owning that today. I'm owning the fact that I have this energy of acceptance and love that's out there around me. And
so how did you get involved like in spiritual living now?
Short story. I love my sister. You have a story for everything. I said, yes, I do.
That's okay. You know what? Life is stories.
It is a story, and people identify with stories. I grew up in a mixed community of religion, and I was going through this phase where I had gotten very religious. And one day I needed to separate myself from all of that, and I just let go of everything, and I became open to what was possible. And because I grew up with the Bible, I found a community that interpreted the Bible different.
Oh, believe me, I was brought up with a very angry God who was ready to punish me.
Yes.
And until I moved to Florida and I went to a Unity church and I was like, what? And now I'll be perfectly honest with you. I church surf. I go to many different churches because I find out whatever church I go to, even a temple, the rules are the same.
Yes.
Obey the Lord and do unto others.
I am the president of Interfaith Tampa Bay, and it's a very powerful being to understand that the golden rule is across all of them. And our idea is not that we're interfaith, we're multi-faith. You can come in and practice your faith, but what is the point of you being your organization? It's to support the community. It's to give people a place where they can come and connect regardless.
Be refreshed.
So we have all faith. My favorite was last week. We had our meeting and the guy talked about happy science, which is a brand new to me. And it's not Buddhism, but it's a new prophet that came on the planet with what they claim is the message in modern day language. It's not the Taoist, it's not all of the, I'm reading one of the books and it's very plain, very easy to read because he says, as people have evolved, we need to be able to keep up with what's going on and how we're shifting and changing. And
it's very interesting because you know what? I went to Catholic grammar school. I went to Catholic high school, but we never read the Bible. It was all catechism. I felt like as I became more mature that I got gypped. I got gypped. And a while ago, a friend of mine had a heart attack, and I was like, "What can I do for you?" And she said, "Every morning, I want you to text me your Good Morning Seminole picture with a Bible verse."
Oh, okay.
And I separately sent it to 43 people every morning. But boy, am I learning some stuff I never knew before.
Yes.
And some very good words.
Yes. I do another one of those stories. I was in corporate America working, and one of my friends, same kind of thing. She was having a hard time, so I sent her one of my messages that I made up. I took a Bible verse and reversed it and made it applicable what was going with her. And so then she started sending it to people. And before long,
that's what happens.
Before long, there was like 40 or 50 people on the email that I was sending out every morning. And then I was going through a hard time, so I stopped doing them. So I had all these people go like, well, you need it as much as we do it for yourself.
That's right.
So for years, I would every morning would look at a scripture and see how it applied to me. And that's what metaphysically says is how do I use the Bible to help me be a better person, help me grow and to be a better person, and how I can be of service to the planet. And that's the journey is how can I be of service to the planet?
Well, because it's tough out there today. I mean, life is tough. Life is beautiful. Life is wonderful, but life is tough. And I think these days it's pretty tough.
I woke up. I started a morning meditation at 7:15 in the morning on Facebook Live because someone said to me one day, "You're angry." And I go, "I'm not angry."
I'm not angry.
Exactly. And I found out that I was very fearful. So underneath all the anger is fear. And so I started a meditation. I talk for like 10 minutes and then do a 10-minute meditation. And what I found, I was in so much fear. I woke up one day in the evolution of things that were happening, and I was very afraid about what's going to happen. What's going to happen to people of color? What's going to happen to old people? And I just started thinking, oh, if I'm in fear and I'm fairly evolved, what about the rest of us? And so it's just a time to just stop, get present with you, acknowledge who you are. I'm in fear, I'm in anger, I'm in whatever. Breathe through, and let that go for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And just be present to who you are. You know, the girl says, oh, you said physicality. I was like, yeah, that's my new term, physicality. You're like, wiggle your toes, you know, do your fingers, just connect with you. And
because your toes are there all day doing stuff for you, and unless you consciously think of it, and then when you start thinking about it, you just start wiggling your toes, because we just talked about toes, you know, kind of thing. But I know you're focusing on bringing love to the world.
Yes.
So all you need is love?
All you need is love. Part of this, I had heart failure. I had not a heart attack. I had heart failure a year ago. And for me, I'm metaphysical. And they say when you have medical issues, it's related to an emotional issue or aspect of us that's not functioning. And I thought I was the most loving, kind person on the world. But heart failure, that's a very clear thing that there's some love.
Message there.
There's a message. There's some love missing somewhere in this game. I think I'm loving. I think I'm kind, but heart failure? I mean, you know, you can have a little bit of a heart issue, but a total open heart surgery, and they rip your heart open and they go, oh, yep, you got problems. And so I was like, okay, coming out of that, that's about love. The heart space is about love. So what is it that I'm not recognizing as part of my love? I don't love me.
Yeah.
How do I learn to love me? How do I learn to love me? How do I learn to appreciate who I am? Just like she was saying, people come up to me, people share their energy and love with me. And I'm not even conscious of it. And so it's like, okay, what do I
because you're really cool with them.
Yeah.
You love them. But
I love
you
them.
need to be with yourself. Because you're gypping yourself.
I am. And I'm learning to this process of how do I love myself? Because what I have done my whole life, I've tried to be what you wanted me to be.
Right. We all do that.
I tried to figure out what you wanted, and that's what I would be. But to get to the space where I started to say, I like me, you know, I'm never going to be a size 12. I'm not. But what I'm doing is, okay, if I'm a 12, I love myself more. But I don't say it consciously. Unconsciously, I've been conditioned to believe that I'm unlovable unless I'm a size 12. Yeah. Unconsciously conditioned.
And it could be just from one thing that was said when you were a child.
Yes. Yes.
You know, yeah, look at it. You feel like you're overweight, or you feel like that, you know, like even me, I thought I was much heavier when I was younger than I was. And I look at the pictures now, I'm like, what the heck? Look at you were pretty damn hot, you know?
Yeah. How about my natural hair? I have natural hair. So why do I have to do something to it to make me feel good about me?
Yeah.
And so I'm working to learn to love myself so I can help other people learn to love themselves. So the walk is, what is the vision? Is to help people really start to appreciate who they are. Like they said, if money made you happy, then all the millionaires in the world should be happy.
Yeah.
If looking a certain way was going to make me happy, then everybody would go and they put on all this makeup and stuff and they would be happy. They would, oh, I look like I'm supposed to look. But what about just looking in the mirror and saying, I can like you today. I love your eyes. Wow, look at that.
You're not the same as everybody else. I don't want to be the same as everybody else.
This is the coolest thing on the planet. There are no two things identical on this planet. Nothing. They've done the research. Even they're trying to do stuff now to actually what they call clone stuff. And they found that even when they clone stuff, it comes out different.
A little different.
And so learning to love that I'm a unique expression, that everything that I am is my uniqueness, is my gift, is my joy to come to the planet, to actually start living into that instead of fearing it.
Yep.
I'm an intelligent being. So I was afraid to be smart.
Fear is evasive so much.
You're smart. Oh my God. You can't hang out with us because you're smart. You can't hang out with us because you're this, you're that. But to get to the place where you go, okay, there's other people like me. I'm in recovery. I'm a recovering person. And the one thing that we learn is that I thought I was the only one that had ever gone through something.
Yeah.
I was the only one that ever felt that way.
Yep.
I was the only one that ever saw things that way. And then you find a posse like going to Unity. You find a posse of people who have felt that way. I worked with the youth at my church for 30 years. And I remember the middle school kids because my middle school years were, I don't even remember, but I started working with these middle school children and I'm going like, what is wrong with them? And they don't know who they are. So between 11 and 13.
Yeah, it's a tough time.
It's a tough time because they have no clue who they are. And so they're trying to fit into some kind of rule or some kind of, so I can feel good. And I remember this young little girl came in and she says, I'm not like everybody else. I'm a devil worshiper. And I'm like, that's very powerful. I'm glad that you know who you are. She says, but I'm a devil worshiper. And we said, so have fun being a devil worshiper. She said, you can't mean that. I said, yes, I did. So she went to conference with us and
she's not a devil worshiper anymore.
No, she never was. It was a thing to try to get attention.
Yeah.
And she thought if she said that, she would push everybody away.
Right.
But
it was just the opposite.
Just the opposite. And so she got to be a part of a community that accepted her just as she was. And then she flourished.
Well, I say this when I speak because I learned this years ago when I ran a women's networking organization. We're all the same schmoes.
Yes.
We're exactly the same. We want our health. We want a roof over our head. We want some family, Mm-hmm. Now, we may have different hobbies. We may have different interests. But basically, we're exactly the same. And when you realize that, you make so many more friends. And you're not judging anybody.
And it's okay. Here's the biggest key to this whole journey. It's okay to be you.
Yeah.
It's okay to be you. Because once I become me, then I'm not competing with you guys.
Right.
And when I'm not competing, I'm not judging. I'm in that space where I can go, oh, you're unique too. And I can see your uniqueness and I can appreciate you. So I don't have to compete with me trying to be you.
Exactly.
And so that's this whole process of loving is having, to me, that's what we are. That's what we are as human beings. And we're remembering who we are. As we age, and the more that we realize.
We do get wiser.
We get wiser. And we start to realize that it's okay for me to be myself.
Yeah.
And as I grow into this, and I'm open to spirit, I'm open to the universe will start to say, you're okay, Linda.
Yeah.
You're okay. It's okay to be you. And then I can start to share that because
exactly
the more that I am me, it gives you permission to be you.
So what programs do you have planned coming up?
I have started a women's gathering. It's called A Gathering of Women, A Conversation. And it's to come in and do this kind of stuff to talk about what you've been through. You're resilient. Women are resilient.
Oh, yes.
We go through a lot. And then to be able to share that with other women.
So where is that?
It's going to be at the Temple of Loving Healing in St. Pete. It's 3700 40th Avenue, St. Petersburg, Florida.
And when is that?
It's going to be the 7th. It's going to be the first Saturday of every month. So the next one is going to be June the 7th, from 1 to 4, 1 to 5. And this one is about Universal Day of Love, which is that same day. I've created what is called Universal Day of Love. And it's not about us trying to have a big gathering or anything. It's for people all over the world to just stop for 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 12 hours and just send love into the universe. Just take your heart and just connect to the most loving thing that you remember.
So powerful.
Just like my love memory is my daughter when she was born, because I wasn't supposed to have kids. And then I had a tumor. So they didn't know what she was going to be or what I was going to be. And so when they cut her out of me, because they wouldn't let me go through regular birth. And she looked up and she looked around and she goes like, who are you people?
I was pretty comfortable over there.
So it was like that moment when she looked at me first, and then looked around. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is life.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
It is a miracle when you think about it.
Yes.
You think about, I always say it's like a little piece of spit and a little piece of spit got together. And it grows a person. You know, I was with my granddaughter this morning, and she's pregnant. She's getting ready to give birth. And just the thought that there's a live baby in there that's growing, and it was now 6 pounds, 13 ounces already. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing.
So what if, just think about this. What if everybody in the world just took 2 minutes and just sent love into the universe?
Yeah.
And then look at what happens on the planet before that 8 hours. It's from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. your local time. So it actually ended up being 24 hours. But just think, if people in China or in Africa, different parts of Africa, and I do have friends in all those areas, and I'm sending them this information. They just take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and just stop and literally feel love, whatever consciousness of love you have, and just send that into the universe. Can you just see the angels and God and the whole universe go?
Feel like a home. Yeah. So where can our listeners find you?
I'm on Facebook. It's Unity on the Path on Facebook. I'm at Unity on the Path Retreat Ministry.org. I'm starting to put the information up there.
Okay.
And my email is unityonthepath@gmail.com. And you can just send me, what I'm asking people to do is send me ideas of love.
Okay.
Like some people have sent me roses, some people sent me critters. I call them animals. And one person sent me it was a beautiful picture. My cousin she's standing next to a peacock with the peacock with the wings, with the the feathers. I was like, wow, now isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
And it's real. It's not.
Yeah. And it's free.
It is free, So this is not, it's not a big event where we're bringing master speakers and, talk about. No, it's your idea of love. And that's what we want to create, is your idea of love.
Good.
Because people who are hurting have a hard time with this.
Yep. All right. I'm going to put all the information in our show where they can contact you and where the workshops are going to be.
Yes.
And right now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Are you getting older, or are you taking care of somebody who is? Getting older creates new problems you probably never imagined. One of the big ones is, how do you pay for care? Care in your home, care in an assisted living facility, or care in a nursing home. Did you know that nursing home care in our community can cost up to $12,000 per month? For the last 33 years, our office has helped families access benefits, including Medicaid, VA, and PACE, to help pay for the cost of long-term care. Regardless of what your assets are or what your income is, you can qualify for these benefits. Proper planning and guidance are absolutely necessary to avoid being wiped out. Let us help. If you are in care or heading in that direction, we can help solve that problem. Take action now to obtain benefits to pay for the cost of care. Here are the 4 things that you need to do. 1, get a new power of attorney. Your old one probably isn't good enough. Get a healthcare surrogate and a living will. 3, get an estate plan that will not disqualify you from benefits. And 4, get a plan to qualify for Medicaid, PACE, or VA benefits to pay for the long-term care costs. Call us today for a free consultation, 727-539-0181, or go to flmedicaid.com and download our free book on Medicaid and planning for long-term care. I'm Sean Scott. I'm here to help.
Guaranteed to make you laugh through your tears, Linda Burhan's book, Good Night and God Bless, is filled with humor and heartfelt inspiration to aid anyone facing the challenge of caring for a loved one at the end of life. Her story offers hope for human strength and understanding of weaknesses during a difficult time. Life doesn't normally prepare us to become a loved one's caregiver. When it happens, it's usually sudden. A diagnosis of an illness, age-related frailty, dementia, and life suddenly is anything but normal. And because we don't even know what we don't know, where do we turn to for help or guidance? In Connecting Caregivers, Answers to the Questions You Didn't Know You Needed to Ask, Linda offers information, education, and inspiration from her own experience and from experts whose advice, practical tools, and personal stories will empower and guide you. Make sure to add these inspiring books to your collection today. Available on Amazon.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we are back. Before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to Stelly Bellies. I told them Stelly Bellies is a kitty and maternity resale boutique on Seminole Boulevard in Seminole. There's one in St. Pete too, and one in Trinity. And they're absolutely fabulous. And so I go to Curves 3 mornings a week. I go to the gym and I walk there a lot. And I always have to walk in. The store's closed. Yes, very good. And I walked by the other day and it was open. And I was walking and I said, I can't carry everything. Can I just leave it here and go get my car and I'll come back?
Did you buy a lot of stuff?
Yes, I did. I bought a little mini cornhole for Landon, a little cornhole game, a bunch of stuff. Very cute. Very cute. So anyway, today we have my friend Maureen Belote on the show. How are you today?
I'm fine, except for the fact that I left the notes I wanted to use. So I'm going to use my improv skills today.
There you
Just
go.
wing it like the rest of us.
Well,
Yeah.
Maureen and I have known each other for a lot of years. Maureen's come to a lot of my support groups, and I always felt that she was such an excellent caregiver to her husband. And her husband passed away recently, which I'll let you tell us about. But Maureen has some stuff she wants to talk about that I think is interesting to listen to.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit more.
Well, we've been a member of our church for a long time. And many people say, I'm praying for you. They ask about him. Sometimes they ask about me, which is nice. But when I suggest they come to visit, I'll see what I can do. I'll try. Regularly, where our church has Holy Communion brought to people who are homebound.
Right.
So there were...
My mother used to do that.
Yes, I do it myself, which has helped me, by the way. But 2 people would come and share communion with him. And when he was able, he would say the Lord's Prayer or whatever. But I also had some past experience. My husband and I both were clowns, Christian clowns. And we'd be invited to go different places. The first time we went to a memory care, one of the residents stole one of my husband's props. Well, we were unexperienced. He didn't know how to handle it. And it wasn't very good overall, but we did our best. And the next time I went, there was somebody picking his nose. I mean, if you're trying to do an act, a show, it's hard to stay focused when at least half the people aren't paying attention. So I was a little hesitant. And I remember saying to others whose husbands, usually husbands, have an Alzheimer's or similar diagnosis, that I was so grateful that I didn't have that. And then it happened to me. In addition to having vascular dementia, he also had hearing loss.
Which just makes it compounded.
It is, yes. Many people have compounded situations.
Yes.
But to begin with, lack of communication is one of the loneliest places. It got to where I could write to him on my notes feature on my phone, and he could answer me. But his hearing got so bad that his voice, his ability to speak clearly, got really bad.
Put by the wayside.
Mm-hmm. So it was hard for him to communicate with caregivers or with me or anything.
Anybody.
Fortunately, his family did a YouTube visit with him once a week because they were all scattered around the country. And I think that was a great idea for him to stay connected to the people who couldn't come to visit, but wanted to and didn't feel uncomfortable doing so.
Yeah.
So I got to thinking about the feelings of discomfort and how what is the old walk in the other shoes?
Yeah.
Well, people with that are put into a residence, I hate to use the word facility.
Our community, I use.
Our community. But either way, it's better than that other F word.
Yeah.
All those F words are bad.
Yeah.
But they are feeling anxious. They're fearful. They feel abandoned and not in control about almost anything.
Not.
Because they're not. Their food is
Everything's
provided.
been taken away from them,
Exactly.
all their decisions.
And as it progresses, sometimes they're not able to take care of their personal needs either, which is very difficult for a lot of people. Fortunately for my husband, he was very pragmatic, and I didn't have an issue with that. But even though the place where he went was very pleasant, I can't think of another place that I've seen that it was more home-like.
Mm-hmm.
I still heard or saw him occasionally kicking the door, right? He wanted to get out.
Yeah.
Now you think about, you've experienced this in your life if you've had children and they have anxiety issues when they're, around 2 years old, they cry, they don't want to go to sleep, okay?
And you keep saying they'll grow out of it, which they do.
They do.
But he won't.
And then I've had several dogs. And you know how you don't dislike them. You don't abandon them. You don't say, I can't handle this. You deal with it.
Right.
And not only deal with it, but with love. So even when somebody has dementia and can't remember stuff, you have to remember that you still remember them.
Yeah, and they're still a person.
And they are, and they need touch. And even if they don't know you who you are, or they think you're your daughter, it doesn't matter. And as long as they have their ability to hear and speak, it's a little bit easier. I will tell you.
Well, I tell you, one time, a girlfriend of mine used to go to dementia communities and do entertainment for the people. You know, they'd have the parachutes, and the balloons and whatever. And there was one woman, and they brought her in every week, but she didn't speak. She didn't do anything. She just sat in her chair with her head down. Well, we found out that she liked horses. So every time they would go to visit, they'd bring a horse, whether it was a stuffed animal or a statue or whatever. And they always brought her in, even though she didn't participate. And one day they brought her in, and some people started talking about horses, and she raised her horse.
Yeah.
So she was in that conversation for that moment.
That's it. We don't
because
know.
Because we enabled that for her.
We don't know what's going on inside.
No.
I had to visit my husband, but I also wanted to visit my husband, but twice a day in the evening because he was using a CPAP machine and memory care is not qualified to do that. So, but I also would go in the afternoons. Well,
I know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I also go once a day, either the morning or the afternoon. Sometimes I work with MRs with ASL letters, or because I knew this was getting worse. Often it was to reinforce the exercises that he'd been given by the PT. And I want to suggest that once you are okay visiting your person, you extend that to everybody who's there. Everybody there is having those same feelings.
Yes.
And I got particularly fond of a group that sat by the window, and I called them my Smile Club. Because one day I went in and I asked this lady, how are you feeling today? And she said, I don't know. I said, well, did you get up? Yeah. Do you hurt? No. I said, it's okay. And I said,
it's a good day.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? Even if you fake it, give me a smile. And she gave one of these. Well, that was the start. And I got to realizing that even for myself, every day I try to find at least 5 things I'm grateful for or blessed by.
Yeah.
So if this is helping me, it's got to help. So I started bringing jokes and riddles and sometimes a game. One day,
and people look forward to that.
Yeah. This 102-year-old woman, after I gave a riddle, she said, why does the golfer have a hole in his pants?
Why?
So he'd always have a hole in one. Now she's 102, living in a memory care.
I laughed.
Not everybody is sitting there uncommunicative.
Right.
And we can't assume that. It's like the anxiety you might have if you had someone in a mental institution. You're afraid to go there. But I'm telling you, you need not be afraid, because there are people there who are professionals.
Yeah.
If someone is acting out, they will take care of it.
Yeah.
And you can find the most delightful people.
Because everybody has a story.
Yes.
And everybody had a life.
Exactly.
You know, it's like you go into a memory community. Oh, that guy was an engineer, and this person was a teacher, and this person was whatever. But we need to value that. We need to discuss that, and we need to know that. And I think that's why it's important too, when you go visit your loved ones, that you try to get to be a little bit friendly with the other people that are there that are visiting their loved ones, because then you can start sharing those stories.
I'll be honest with you. I miss going there.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I'm afraid they're going to not remember me anymore, because it's been several months. But
see, that's what happens too when people put their loved one in a community. They always asking me when should I do it, and I always say when it's not safe anymore, or when you're ready to jump off the bridge,
or when a PT, after my husband had the EMTs come 8 times in 1 year, and the evaluator for the PT said, "So what's your plan B?" And I looked at her, I said, "I don't know." She says, "Well, what if something happened to you?"
To you, right.
And that was the catalyst. Thank you, Maria. But she is the one that made me stop and think. Yeah. And I discussed it with his, we were married 40 years, but he had a marriage before that yielded 8 children. So I have other people in the family to consider. And they all were supportive, of doing this. So,
well, I find what happens is you're so worried about, if I put my loved one into a community, they're going to be angry, or, I told them I would never do that and everything. And I find that 99% of the time, the person in the community is just fine, and they meet friends there, and you're the one that has the issue. You're the one that goes home to the empty house. You're the one that has the doubts. You're the one that has the loneliness. They're with other people now.
Well, I've seen it both ways. Yeah. My husband, was one of his best qualities was he was always pragmatic. And I remember the day, and you don't say this too soon, but like probably the day before, that I had made arrangements for him to go to this place. And he wept. And he said, "That's the place we pass on the way to church." I said, "Yes." He says, "I always figured I'd go there, but I didn't know it would be this soon." Okay.
It's tough, eh?
Right, right. But we dealt with it, and we dealt with it at the right time. And as I said, he was pregnant. There were only a couple of times where he wanted to take the pictures down to take them home, but not too often. I've seen the opposite too. So, but I want to tell you that there's so much more, and I have a whole list. And if you need to share this in some way, that's fine. But I want to tell you a true story. We have if you don't know somebody who's had a memory problem, then you haven't lived.
And you probably do. They just didn't tell you.
You must be 12 years old. I mean, So
it's like years ago, everybody knew somebody with cancer.
Yes.
Everybody knows somebody with cognitive impairment.
Okay. Well, this man, Paul, used to play golf with my husband and his wife. They were members of our church, and she used to sing with me in the choir. And it got to be too difficult for her. And eventually she had to be placed in a very nice
community.
I almost said the wrong word.
I
know. But he would go to visit her every single day. And I was amazed. I said, "How can you do this? Why?" She was at a point where she was not recognizing anybody, much less him, and she wasn't talking. He said, "Well, she may not remember me, but I remember her." And he would hold her hand and, talk to her. One day he went in and the aide said, "Come here." She gave him a stethoscope. He put it on, and she says, "Now, I want you to listen to her chest." And when he put it to her chest, there was the very faintest humming. You would not have heard without the stethoscope. It was just by accident. Somebody discovered it. And he said, "That's my hummingbird. I always called her a hummingbird. She was always humming around the house. It was like she's still there. There's a part of her still there. You wouldn't have known it any other way.
How fabulous.
Is that not?
That he had that opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you know the other night I stayed up late a Sunday because The Notebook was on again. Have you seen The Notebook?
I'm not sure if I did.
You really have to see it. I mean, I've read the book, but I've seen the movie about 3 times. I said, why am I watching this? Pardon me?
What's the gist of it?
It's a lady who, a husband and wife, she gets Alzheimer's, and he puts her in a place, but he moves into, and she doesn't know it's James Garner is the older one. It's just
loving. It's loving.
You really should see it, Maureen.
I've seen, what is the I'm Still Elizabeth one? Or there's another movie about but the progression. She was a professor, and
there's more now. You know, when I first started doing this, nobody was even talking about it. Now
was it Nicholas Sparks' book?
Yeah, now it's on TV all the time.
I love that,
which is good. So go ahead, Maureen. What else do you want to say?
Well, I sometimes, if somebody is communicative, I find that if I tell a short story or a memory, like when I was a little girl, we lived in an apartment in Orange, New Jersey, which is not far from Newark. My mom and I would sometimes have to run to catch the bus, but I could always hear her click, 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 click. And I could remember the pain in my side because I was only 3 or 4 years old and it hurt. But we had to do it. And then we would go into a department store where they had elevators that an operator had to use.
Yes, they had that little seat there.
Yes.
And the cage.
Yes, and the cage.
Very friendly.
And then there were the other doors too. So, yes, I remember that. So sometimes you share a little remembrance and you could say, what do you remember when you were little? Or who did you play with? What toys? I mean, we didn't have computers.
No.
We had Tinker Toys and Lincoln Logs.
Tinker Toys.
I know. My brother had an electric train set, which made me very jealous.
Pretty lucky.
But he did. But I was given a wind-up train. And, relationships with, if you have brothers or sisters. And I mean, when you tell a story, if it's relatable to somebody else will remember, I remember my brother did, And so you're establishing community. These are people who most of the day are not communicating with anybody but a caregiver.
And even that, not so much. The caregiver's got a lot of people to take care of.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's to get things done.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the quietest places at his residence was lunch hour because nobody talked to anybody. They all ate.
Just focusing on eating.
They knew each other because when they would play games like, that lovely noodle ball and, they call each other's names out. But it's a different world, but it's still their world. And some of them had been there for 8 years already. There's no time limit on dementia.
Right.
Which is another
because usually you're healthy in all other ways, unfortunately.
Well, as I said, it's scary for the person who is making those decisions.
Well, and we don't know everything that's going on through their head. None of us knows.
No.
I get that every now and then. I can't remember something, or something. I get a little fear, kind of. Like I don't know what if it was like that all the time.
Yeah. I found too. I was able to bring photo albums.
Yeah.
Okay, because they may not remember 5 minutes ago,
right?
But they can
remember that 1952 Chevy.
And sometimes it will bring out a story.
Yeah. Well, I say to people, if you're going to visit somebody, because lots of times your family comes to visit and they don't know what to talk to Grandma about.
Mm-hmm.
If Grandma was a Girl Scout leader, go online and print out some pictures of Girl Scouts. If she lived in Brooklyn, go pick out some pictures in Brooklyn, and then they just pick up the paper and go, "I didn't know you were a Girl Scout leader," and then. Because that helps them too to start that conversation. All right, we got to be wrapping it up. So what's the most important thing?
I will leave this with you. There is online. It's dailycaring.com. Visiting someone with Alzheimer's, do's and don'ts for visitors. Okay. Anybody can pick that up.
All right, I'll put that in the description of the
show. And
you
can whatever you want me to do with this. But we've talked about some of the things on the And I remember taking your wonderful webinar, and I had forgotten all about the importance of touch. One of the people who would visit my husband sometimes, he would just sit there and hold his hand and pray, or tell him something.
Yeah.
And even
It
if
makes it different when you're touching.
Exactly. Even if he didn't know what was going on, he had the feeling somebody came to see just him. He was special.
Yeah.
Do you notice what I'm
Because he
saying?
was special.
I know. And by the way, one day when I didn't make it during the day, boy,
Yeah.
it was a difficult time.
Not going for that.
No, we're going to talk about that. But I did want to say that my husband passed away this past February, and I have a picture that I just stuck in a fake plant so that when I'm sitting in my recliner, I can look at him. And I find that I talk to him. I can do that, but I can only do it to his picture. Don't
It's okay,
wait.
whatever works for you.
Well, I'm saying, but I want to encourage people to not wait until you're only talking to the picture.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I feel that I am blessed, and I hope I am passing that on. And that's what I have put. We had tiles put in our new patio at church, and that's what I put on it. Be blessed and pass it on.
Thank you, my friend. I so appreciate you. And now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, so don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Choosing the right chiropractor is an important choice to make. Located in Seminole, the Alexander Spine Center team is trained on the latest chiropractic treatments and technologies. At Alexander Spine Center, you'll find chiropractic and physical therapy care that is safe, effective, and a natural approach to pain and other health-related issues. Chiropractic unlocks your body's potential and natural healing process to ensure your life is a healthy life. We treat clients from the womb to the tomb. Call 727-397-3000 for a free consultation today, or visit our website at www.alexanderspinecenter.com.
They take good care of me twice a week, so check them out.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
We believe the power of the human body and mind can do amazing things, and that tapping into that power, not just tricking it with a temporary disguise, is possible. Superpatch technology uses a special pattern and vibrotactile technology to help you go from feeling blah to hurrah. Now, once the Superpatch is in contact with your skin, it triggers a neutral response in the brainstem that helps you tackle your daily problems head on. Whether you're struggling with pain, balance, stress, or focus, we have a solution that might be right for you. With Superpatch's 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hi, this is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. I started using the Liberty Patch over 3 years ago. I used to be a tripper, but since wearing the Liberty Patch, I haven't tripped once. The Liberty Patch is proven to reduce the risk of falling by up to 8 times. And as we all know, if you prevent the fall, you prevent the call. Don't wait until it's too late. Preventative solutions are the answer.
Superpatch does not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure illness. Superpatch is FDA registered. To receive 25% off your first order, go to sticktoit.info. That's sticktoit.info and learn more.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we are back. And so we have a couple of things coming up, some announcements. There's a lunch and learn on Tuesday, June 3rd at Bethel Lutheran Church. There'll be a panel of 6 speakers. I am the moderator for the panel. It's sponsored by Arden Court. So it's Tuesday, June 3rd from 10:30 to 12:30 at Bethel Lutheran Church on McMullen Booth. You can RSVP to 727-771-1600. And then I am having a caregiver luncheon and social time, which will be on Wednesday, June 11th at Clear Sky on Park. Just for caregivers, just to get together and have lunch and just chill out. I think we have about 10 of us so far. So if you're interested, you can call me at 727-365-8383, or you can email me through my website or at lindaburhans@AOL. On Thursday, June 12th, we have a seminar all about veterans benefits. In fact, I'm going to go here because I want to make sure I'm not missing out on things that I need to help people with. So it will be at Arden Courts in Largo, and you can RSVP to Michelle at 727-559-8411. And one more, on Tuesday, June 24th, we have Answers for Common Caregiver Questions, Concerns, and Challenges with Eileen Poley, who is the Director of Education at the USF Health Bird Institute, Alzheimer's Institute. She's a very fabulous speaker. June 24th, 10 to 1. You can RSVP to Arden Courts to Donner at 727-512-9925. So thanks so much for being with us today. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Maureen. Appreciate having you. Tune in next week for another show. We'll have Cookie Lopez here next week, the winner of the Caregiver Contest. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.